Hello, I'm Tom Scottis representing St. Gabriels Online Newsroom. We're at St. Dominic's Parish at the Thunder Bay Right to Life Annual General Meeting. Today's keynote speaker will be Jakki Jeffs of Alliance for Life Ontario. How well do you think the pro-life movement is doing in Canada today?
I think there's more action going on right now than there has been for a long time, and I've been at it for over 30 years, so I have hope that we are getting closer. It's a long battle that we have to fight, but I think we're getting there.
So you're very optimistic about the future. What gives you optimism?
I don't know that I'd say very optimistic. I am hopeful when I see, as was mentioned earlier today, the youth that are in Thunder Bay, and across the province that are turning out for events. I think that's encouraging, because once the youth figure it out, they'll be able to teach the people who've been hoodwinked and lied to all these years.
What kind of strategy do you think we should be using to make even more progress in the pro-life movement?
I think unveiling the lies that have been told and the people that are living with the after effects. I think that there are women across this province and men across this province who are suffering from making what they called a choice of abortion, and they've lived the rest of their lives in pain. And if these people can be given tenderness and our compassion so that they can bring their stories out, that's how we're going to help. That's how we're going to make a difference.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Jakki, in your talk, I noticed you mentioned media coverage. And basically you were saying that we're not getting enough media coverage. How do we increase the pro-life movement? How do we increase our media coverage?
I think we encourage our young people to get into journalism, to be totally honest, because studies over the past have said that most of the journalists have a left-leaning ideology. And how are they going to promote right-leaning or perceived right-leaning events and things? So I think we have to encourage them to be more fair, to be less biased, but absolutely to get young people into journalism. Let's have some fair reporting. Now,
you also mentioned the importance of young people in your keynote address. How do we get more young people not only involved in journalism, but more young people involved in the pro-life movement as a whole?
Well, I think basically they're out there, but us folks who've been in it for a long, long time have got to see that they're there and give them the opportunity to do the work that they want to do. It's going to be very different to our work. I have 3 young people in my office, and it's absolutely wonderful. They Twitter and Facebook and all the stuff that I don't particularly do, and their social media savvy is unbelievable. So I think we have to start using that much more and getting those young ones in. You see here today in Thunder Bay, I mean, this wonderful organisation is run by kids who probably aren't as old as me, all of their ages together. That's what we need to do, trust them and then support them.
How well do you think the pro-life movement is doing in Canada right now?
I think it has momentum. It needs a lot more people involved. I know there are a lot of obstacles, I would think, that are creating a hindrance to their, how do you say, their into becoming much more larger and therefore more effective in a sense. But other than that, it's still up and moving, and I'm glad for that.
Are you optimistic about the future?
With the pro-life movement? Yes, I am. It's hard work, but yet there are a lot of young people involved, and I think that's where it needs to be. And the young people, as long as they get on the wagon, that it will continue so.
Now, you also spoke about doctors, and you gave us examples of what is some of the horrifying things that are happening in hospitals. Are there less doctors now willing to perform abortions than in the past?
Well, if you look to the abortion advocates, they will say yes, there are, because that is one of their concerns. And I think it's why we're seeing this sense of mandating and forcing and making people be involved with abortion. I think the old guard are going, and there are not many of the new guard in the medical professions that want to pick this up. So I guess that's an answer to our prayer in some ways.
Now, is your organization trying to reach doctors with a pro-life message?
Actually, not in all honesty. That isn't our main aim. It's the public. We're trying to change the hearts and minds of the public. Canadian Physicians for Life, I think, would be more on the cutting edge of trying to do that with the physicians. What I do more is challenge them. So I will challenge guidelines, and I will challenge comments, and we will challenge procedures. As I explained, how do you in one room counsel a mother of a 12-week unborn child that this is your baby, this is how you need to look after yourself, to look after the child, and in another room with another mother carrying a 12-week-old child and saying this is a blob, this is a tissue, you can have an abortion. I think those contradictions have to be addressed. That's my job.
Now, in your talk, I forget the exact words you used, but you sounded very optimistic that the pro-life movement would eventually prevail in Canada. What gives you that optimism?
Well, because we see our young people, as I said earlier, not only taking part but taking the lead. And I think they will begin, and I'm really hopeful that they will, for those that we've got in high schools, that will challenge the message that they're being given. For those that are going into the medical profession, that they will have the courage, and it's very difficult for them, but to challenge what they're being told. And I honestly believe that the tide will turn. I think our Generation X was a start. Generation Y are almost all pro-life, and so God bless us when they get going, because I think they will change. I think they will change the world.
How well do you think the pro-life movement is doing now in Canada?
It's going awesome, I think. The amount of youth we have always to the March for Life, it's always a great sign, knowing that, as Pope John Paul II said, youth aren't the abortion movement of the future, they're the abortion movement now. And so I think that's a great experience we have, and it's great to see so many young people out, so many people involved, and I think it's going to go really well going forward, having people involved, having people that are knowledgeable involved. What
else is giving you optimism?
Another thing that's giving me optimism is not only the youth, but also people that have been in this battle for a while now. Many people have been doing this movement since the very beginning, and it's great to have that experience as well with the youth. So in combining, it makes something really special, and it makes a great movement going forward.
How well do you think the pro-life movement is doing right now in Canada?
I think that the pro-life movement in Canada is, we have two ends of it, right? It's both growing in the young people, but it's also struggling. As we get stronger, the pushback also gets greater. So I think that I could argue both sides, but I think ultimately I'm optimistic.
And why are you optimistic?
Because the movement is getting younger and younger. I mean, you can even see on our board, whereas before we didn't have as many young people. Now we have quite a few young people, even on the Right to Life board, and we have the Students for Life movement growing in Thunder Bay and Canada.
And what strategies do you think we should be using to grow the movement even more?
I mean, that depends on your demographic, who you're talking to. I know the CCBR has a very in-your-face graphic approach, but sometimes, the more simple, simply speaking, praying the 40 Days for Life campaign is also extremely effective. So it depends on your audience, and it depends on your own gifts as an activist. But I do believe that we should use everything in our artillery to fight this.
And thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Now, in your talk, you said that we're not living in a democracy. Can you expand on that?
Well, yes. If you have governments that are refusing to allow access to information, which As I said, you know, the Canadian government have adhered to this Access to Information 1954 international document, and yet we are not being given correct statistics regarding abortion. And our provincial government completely now, through the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, saying everything else is under this except abortion statistics. That's not democratic. And so I think we need to be challenging that. I mean, and seriously, with the sense that there is some sort of position that we're all supposed to hold. We do live in a democracy, so don't give me tyranny. Don't tell me that I cannot believe that family should consist of a husband and wife and their children or their adopted children. Don't tell me that I can't believe that life should be protected. Don't tell me that parents should not be able to protect their children from some of this sex education that specifically now our Ontario government is saying that they should provide for us. And it doesn't matter if we oppose that. They say, well, you can't take your children out. Well, that is not democratic. They're banking, I think, on the fact that most of us are nice people and we don't kick that once they put it in. But I think we've got to start being not so nice people and defending our values. There is not an overall Ontario government value on every single thing, no matter how they will try and tell us that there is. So not to be afraid.
Now, you mentioned in your talk that it's quite possible that euthanasia might be legalized in Quebec. Do you think it could be legalized there and in the rest of Canada?
Well, what bothers me a little is that maybe the other provinces will follow the Quebec lead by non-prosecution. I'm hopeful that the doctors, because I know the Quebec Medical Association is not for euthanasia, and they're the ones that will be forced by the government to perform euthanasia. And I mean, you look at Ontario. Ontario is so, and BC, really very, very liberal in so many ways. And I think that what we are going to see is that if that domino falls, I think they'll all fall. Sad to say, it paints a rather dark picture, but it seems that protection of the vulnerable is not what we do anymore, even though it's supposed to be a sign of a great nation, right? How you treat your weak and those most vulnerable. And yet we are picking on the disabled, those who are dying or terminally ill, and our little ones. And we are literally bullying them to death with euthanasia and abortion.
Do you think it's also possible that infanticide could be legalized?
Well, as I said to you about the professor's article in the Medical Ethics, this sense that if we don't catch the child with a disability in the womb, that somehow there should be some limit within maybe a month that the parents can decide whether or not they are going to live with this child. Yeah, I do. I think that is what's going to happen. It maybe wouldn't be called infanticide, but certainly killing of children. I think we would deny them their personhood for a month or two, and then that killing will be allowed. Because if we can make the case to kill an obvious human being in the womb, they're going to make the case to kill a child.
Now, you also touched on feminism in your talk. What do you think the real goal of feminism is?
Oh, I'm only a woman. How would I know? Sorry. I think the original feminists were right. The suffragettes were right to say we should be able to own property. We are equal, just like any other movement, like slavery and the civil rights. And so I think they wanted fairness and they wanted equality, and they were for life. Some of the early wonderful feminists understood and knew that there was a life inside them when they were pregnant, and that they abhorred abortion. But somehow or other it's been changed into, it seems to represent a feminism that I don't understand.
Anti-family?
It's anti-family. It's anti-female, I think.
Pro-choice?
Pro-choice, yeah. It's just everything I don't believe in. So I often say, the status of women is actually a ministry for a status of a few women, because it doesn't represent me in any way, shape or form. as it is now.
Jakki, on behalf of St. Gabriel's Newsroom, I would like to thank you for coming out today and giving us a great keynote address and for answering our questions.
You're very welcome. Thank you.